I got very involved with Vietnam veterans in the 80s when I was working at Steppenwolf, actually. As an artistic director, I wanted to find a piece of theater that would speak to the Vietnam veteran experience, and I found one that was written by a group of Vietnam veterans called Tracers, and it was originally it was written by a group of Vietnam veterans, and they were performing it, and I went to see it in Los Angeles, fell in love with it, was very, very moved by it, and wanted to direct it at Steppenwolf in Chicago, which I did. And that led me to start getting involved with local Vietnam veterans groups in Chicago. And this is back in the 80s, 10 years before Forrest Gump. So when Forrest Gump came along, and I'm playing a Vietnam veteran, and I'm invited to the National Convention of the DAV, and they present me with an award, I just knew, something was happening at that point. I was being prepared for what would happen when we were attacked on September 11th. And that was a true turning point for me to service and service work. And there was no going back after that. I mean, it was profoundly impactful, and I just knew that I was going to be very heavily involved with supporting the men and women who were deploying to Iraq and Afghanistan, their families, those who were getting hurt. The real life Lieutenant Dans I started supporting, and all that grew into the Gary Sinise Foundation.
You talk about that in your book, about going over and visiting the veterans, or our service members in Iraq, and what was that like?
Yeah, the first trip I did was in June of 2003, so 21 years ago. And I volunteered to go to Iraq on the first big USO tour where they were taking entertainers and everything to Iraq. And I went as an actor, and there was all kinds of people entertaining. Leanne Womack and Kid Rock, all these different people were entertaining, and I was Lieutenant Dan, shaking hands and taking pictures and signing autographs and talking with the troops and that kind of thing. And that was a gigantic moment. As soon as I got back from that trip, and I met thousands of troops, I called the USO and I said, where can I go next? And so within 3 weeks of getting back from Iraq, I was in Italy doing a tour, military bases all over Italy. And then I got back from that, and the next month I said, where can I go now? And then I went to Germany, did a tour in Germany. And then I went to Fort Stewart and Walter Reed and Bethesda Naval Hospital. And then I went back to Iraq, So for 6 months, I wasn't working at the time. So for 6 months, I was just doing all this work with the USO and traveling with the USO. And that really solidified and galvanized this mission for me, because I could see what showing up on a military base or a military hospital was doing for somebody. It was lifting them up. It was helping to raise them up.
Well, tell me about the Gary Sinise Foundation. You have a lot going on. You have so many different programs. Let's talk about them.
Yeah, and the foundation grew out of all this stuff that I was doing before that. What does an actor do when he wants to go support the troops? You call the USO and you go out there and do it. So that's what I did in the beginning, but then I wanted to do more. So I started volunteering for all these nonprofits. I could see there was this nonprofit supporting the troops, this one helping the wounded, this one helping our first responders, this one helping the families of our fallen heroes. All these different nonprofits, and I was raising my hand and saying, what can I do to help you raise money, raise awareness, do all these things? So I ended up getting involved. In fact, this right here, this call to action list that you see right there, that's about 25 or 30 nonprofits that I got involved with before I started my own. So I learned quite a bit from a lot of these nonprofits about where the needs were and how to try to fill those needs. And I just wanted to do more for as many people as I could, so that's why I volunteered for so many nonprofits. So at a certain point, I'm like, gosh, what am I going to do next? And the clear direction for me was to start my own nonprofit. And that's where the Gary Sinise Foundation came from. And the reason I put my name on it is because, as I said, I was doing all these trips, I was doing all these hospital visits, raising all this money, doing all these different things. And so I had built up a pretty solid reputation, over about a 10-year, 15-year period for helping our veterans. And people knew I was serious about it. People knew that it was something that I was passionate about and that meant a lot to me. So I thought, well, I've made a reputation here, a trusted, reliable reputation with our military community and with people who are seeking ways to help our veterans. So I slapped my name down on the Gary Sinise Foundation, and I said, I'm going to put my name on it because you're going to trust it. If I put my name on this, that means I'm going to back it up with action. And that's what I've tried to do ever since 2011, when we officially launched at the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. And now we're in our 14th year, and we've done a lot, and we've helped a lot of folks, and a lot of people have helped us to help a lot of folks.